Welcome back. In this lecture, I will start module 3, which is radical chain polymerization. The content of this lecture is as follows. I will talk about types of chain growth polymerization and then talk about mechanism and kinetics of radical polymerization. Now, if you recall our discussion from lecture 4 or 5 about the chain growth polymerization or simply chain polymerization. We discussed that if we have a set of monomer and we have an initiator, we require an initiator which initiates the chain, and once the chain initiates, we have the monomers getting one after one at the end and making the polymer chain, and more such monomer initiator actually generates. So, we get more and more such chain, and eventually these propagating chains get terminated and we get polymer sample. So, in this case we require initiator to initiate chain, and growth occur by successive addition of monomer units to the limited number of growing chains we discussed. And one important thing we also discussed, that in this case at the end of the polymerization we need to isolate the polymer chains, and our actual product is the isolated polymer chains, not the mixture of the or the final mixture of the after the reaction. Generally, it is the polymerization formed by addition reaction, and as you can understand that immediately the initiation happen, large polymer chains starts producing. So, if I actually plot a conversion or time say with molecular weight or size, then obviously within very immediately after starting the reaction you actually land up getting high molecular weight. This should be even faster. I should make it more narrower. So, actually initially at the low conversion itself we are getting large number of monomer units in a chain. So, the molecular weight of the polymer actually is high even at very low conversion. Now, if this is a normal chain polymerization where termination also takes place as the time goes on. If by any means if we can stop this termination reaction, then the chains keep on increasing in molecular weight, and in that case we get a linear increase in molecular weight conversion. So, this case we are doing a chain polymerization without termination of the propagating chains. This is a normal case where we get statistical termination, and this is the this is the standard normal polymerization chain polymerization process, and this is a special case. We require special technique, we will discuss when the time comes. So, in normally as we said, this is the case where even at the beginning at low conversion we get high molecular weight formation, and as time goes on at more and more monomer gets polymerized, the amount of polymer increases, not the molecular weight. So, with time molecular weight almost remains same, except the very last few at the end of the polymerization, but during entire duration the molecular weight remain almost same, but the amount of polymer increases with time. Now, the type of chain growth polymerization depends on the initiator which we just discussed, what type of initiator we are using. Depending upon the initiator, we can have a free radical polymerization, cationic polymerization or anionic polymerization. If the initiator is a cation, then we call it a cation polymerization and so on. Now, which of this initiation mechanism we should try? We should basically, which looking at the monomer structure, we should actually design what is the type of chain polymerization we should employ. If I generally write a structure I star, which is either could be a radical cation or anion, it basically attacks and get a first initiation step like this. Now, it could be a radical anion or cation. Now, depending on this substituent Y, whether it can stabilize this radical or cation or anion, depending on that, it will decide whether the reaction will proceed or not. If this species is very unstable, then we will not get sufficient molecular weight or the reaction will not proceed. And if it is too stable, that it is not reactive at all, then also it is a problem. But in normal scenario, if we can stabilize this intermediate, this radical cation or anion, then the polymerization would be comparatively feasible. Now, if I have a cation or if you have a say anion to begin with, if I have a electron withdrawing group either by inductive effect or by resonance, then we can actually stabilize this species and have a fruitful polymerization. So, we will just have a table to show depending upon Y what type of polymerization, chain polymerization is feasible. So, if I write COR and this type of Y is this functionality, so say then if I have a anion, if say I have a anion and Y is COR, then I can actually stabilize this like this, or if I have a C N triple bond N, then I can stabilize this. So, in this case anion is a feasible reaction, or if I have a radical also, I can also similarly stabilize this intermediate. Hence, for this type of substituent, you can understand that the radical polymerization and anion polymerization is a feasible one. So, if I write this, so it is possible this type of substituent radical polymerization and anionic polymerization is feasible. If I talk about substitution like this, then I can have, say I can write this structure of say chain with say cation, and I have benzene ring, then I can have a resonance stabilization structure or I can have more and more such stabilized resonance stabilized structure. Now, this stabilization can happen if I have a radical, I can have similar resonance structure, or it is also possible if I have a anion also. So, if I have a substitution like phenyl substitution, for example, we are talking about a styrene molecule in this example, I can have all three possible cationic polymerization, anionic polymerization or a radical polymerization. That is also true for this structure also. This can also participate in resonance stabilization. So, in this case we can think about that this is a possible this case, this substitution will lead us have this substitution can lead all three types of polymerization. We can, if we talk about OR, then let me again write the structure. Now, this is possible, some sort of stabilization is possible by donation of this lone pair on the oxygen. So, in this case it is possible to have polymerization by cationic mechanism, but you can understand that if it is a anion or a radical, this stabilization would be very difficult. So, in this case we have this cationic polymerization possible. If we have this structure, it is very difficult because it cannot stabilize. There are lone pairs on say halogen, but it also electron withdrawing. So, it is very difficult. So, this type of substitution actually leads to difficulty in polymerization by chain growth polymerization, but if it happens by radical polymerization. Now, we talked about electronic stabilization. This is possible that sterically also it has to be feasible. For example, if there are more substitution in the around the double bond, then it is very difficult for this monomer, this type of monomers to polymerize. So, it basically almost never polymerize, and if there are no substitution or a single substitution is polymerized very easily. Now, note that in this particular case ethylene case there is no substitution. So, the stabilization would be difficult. So, in this particular case, though it in principle can be polymerized by radically, but because of non-existence of any stabilization mechanism, we cannot make large molecular weight or sufficiently high molecular weight polyethylene by radical polymerization. This type of substitution usually leads to polymerization, but this type of substitution actually do not lead to feasibility of the polymerization. So, basically in this slide we learned that it is the number of substitution also important to have a feasible chain polymerization. Now, if we talk about the structural arrangement of the monomer units during polymerization, for example, if I just write anything any radical cation or it could be radical cation or anion, it can attack this carbon so that we get this structure, or it can attack in that case we get this structure. Now, if this happen continuously or this happen continuously, then we get a structure like and so on. But if actually alternate, or if next one when it attacks next monomer, if it does it different way, alternate way, then we can land up in a different structure which we can. So, in last case which I removed is all similar arrangement, but there is another possible arrangement Now, in this case there is a reversal in the site of attack, and so on. So, in this case this is we call head to head, this is H head to head arrangement, and this is tail to tail arrangement. It can do otherwise also, tail to tail or head to head, but this is highly unlikely, because if you look at the two structure, this is always feasible because of the stabilization of this X and Y group. So, when it further attacks a second monomer, it will always prefer to attack here to make So, this is always preferred arrangement. So, this head to tail arrangement is always preferred than either a head head or tail tail arrangement. So, this head to tail arrangement is almost exclusively formed during chain growth polymerization. There are exceptions which we are not discussing in this introductory course, but as you can understand that in chain growth polymerization it is mostly the head tail arrangement which happens during polymerization. Now, we will look for the mechanism of radical polymerization. We will focus on radical chain polymerization. We will come back to cation or anionic polymerization briefly in later lecture. So, there are three steps of radical chain polymerization. First step is initiation. So, in this case a initiator molecule actually gets dissociated to form two radical, and we have a rate constant associated with this step. For example, I have a AIBN molecule which gets dissociated and form two radical. Now, once this radical forms, it immediately attacks a monomer molecule and form this R M dot. So, basically this is R M dot. So, we call this as a primary radical, and this is because this actually next time will attack to another M monomer and start the chain. So, we call this as a chain initiating radical. So, this is the initiation step. Once initiation happen, so this is as I shown that this radical actually first attack the monomer and to form this first chain initiating radical. Second step is propagation. In this case, this the first chain initiating radical reacts with another monomer to form radical. I am not putting R in all these cases. So, there should be the initiating species R all this case, and for simplicity we are writing instead of m dot 2 m dots or m2 dot, this for just simple representation, and I have a particular rate constant associated with this. Similarly, this attacks to another monomer, I get second rate constant, I get m3 and similarly m4, and in general form I can write mn plus m give you mn plus 1. So, n plus 1 number of monomers are present in this propagating radical, and I write a rate constant for this. So, those propagating radical can actually interact with each other. Radicals also reactive, they can bimolecularly react with each other and terminate the chain, and the two way generally possible. One is by disproportionation, we write corresponding rate constant as k T d, termination by disproportionation. So, in that case we get two polymer chain, the structure is shown here. So, from two radical propagating radical we get two chains, and there is another possible way to do termination by coupling. So, k T c means k termination by coupling. In that case these two are joined each other and we get a single polymer chain from two radicals. So, if you recall that all these chains has started with a species chain initiating species at the beginning. So, in this case when the termination is by disproportionation, then each polymer will have one chain initiating species, and if the coupling is done by, if the termination is done by coupling process, then each resulting polymer chain will have two chain initiating species. So, in general we write the termination as, mn plus mn dot dead polymer Kt termination step. Just give you one example. Now, we talked about that each polymer chain will have one initiator molecule if the termination is by disproportionation, and each polymer chain will have two initiator species at the two ends if the termination is by coupling. So, if I can label, if I can quantify the amount or the number of initiator molecules or initiating species per polymer chain, then we can find out what is the mode of termination. One example is this, in this case AIBN was initiator and it was carbon radio level basically. So, I have the molecular weight of the polymer chain is given this, and AIBN has, it is known that AIBN has an activity, AIBN molecule independently has an activity of this number counts per minute per mole. So, 1 mole of AIBN has this many counts, and 3.22 grams of this resulting polystyrene has an activity of this. So, what is the mode of termination? So, if I try to solve this Mn for this given by degree of polymerization multiplied by the molecular weight of the repeat structural unit, which is in this case polystyrene case is 104. So, we write 104, which gives me 1.58 into 10 to the power 6 gram per mole. So, 3.22 gram of polystyrene is equivalent to is given 203 counts per minute. So, 1 mole of polystyrene, 1 mole polystyrene which is this many gram, 1.58 into 10 to the power 6 gram of polystyrene contains how many AIBN? We can just do this simple rearrangement. One mole of AIBN gives this many counts of AIBN. So, this is the number of moles of AIBN. So, as you can see, 1 mole of polystyrene gives approximately 1 mole of AIBN, which means 1 polystyrene chain contains 1 AIBN, 1 AIBN complete. Now, each AIBN produces 2 radical species as we have seen, which means 1 polystyrene chain contains 2 initiating species both the side. So, R one side, another one side, which means the termination in this case is exclusively by coupling, as I have 2 initiating species in 2 sides. So, this is just an example how to find out what is the mode of termination. Now, we will go to rate expression. So, initiation happens in 2 steps as we discussed earlier. This is the first step, dissociation, where we get these 2 radicals, and then immediately it actually initiates the first, reacts with the first monomer, and we get the. So, these 2 steps together we call initiation step, and we write R I is the rate of initiation, and actually it depends on the radical initiation process. What is the process by which we are generating this radical? It could be either by heat or by photochemical, by shining light, or by redox processes. So, this rate of initiation depends on the type of initiation process, and we will come back and discuss how to find out R I depending upon what is the type of initiation little later. Now, in case of propagation, we know that we have written these things. These are the steps of propagation, where we have written different rate constant for different steps, but because the reaction is basically same, it is a reaction between a monomer and a radical which is also similar structure. So, it is very safe and very justifiable to assume that all these reaction proceeds with same rate constant. In this case, we will just remove this 1, 2, 3 n number. So, all these steps actually go by same rate. So, we have same rate constant for all these steps. Now, we can write individual rate. So, basically rate for this it would be K p m1 dot concentration of m. Similarly, for this step I have rate K p m2 dot m. Similarly, for this step I have K p m3 dot m. So, the total rate of this I can sum up, I can add up to get the total rate of propagation, which is K p is common for all this case, and I can add summation of I, concentration of m I radicals, and multiplied by m. So, this is the term which is basically the summation of all the radicals present in the reaction mixture, and we write this term equals to simply m dot, which is the concentration of all the radical species, propagating radicals present in the reaction mixture. So, we can simply write this now, R p is equal to K p into this term multiplied by the monomer concentration. So, we write this as we will come back. Now, before that we can know that what is the rate of polymerization. Rate of polymerization is given by rate of disappearance of monomer. Now, monomer disappears in the initiation step and during all this propagation step. So, we can write rate of polymerization is given by rate of initiation plus rate of propagation. This is rate of propagation. Now, as you can see, only in the initiation step only one monomer disappears, wherein there are many propagation steps. We can actually consider this equivalent to R p. So, rate of polymerization is given by rate of propagation, and we have already find out what is the rate of propagation, which is given by K p, total radical concentration multiplied by the concentration of monomer. Now, in the termination step, we have two ways possible termination, one by disproportion and one by coupling. So, we can in general we can write this, where this K T is summation of these two steps, and in this case the rate is given by the, because this is the total m dot and this is also m dot. So, basically given by square of this total radical concentration. Now, this term 2 is coming because each reaction is actually produces two polymers. Actually, it stops two, it does not produce, not necessarily produce two polymer chains, but it actually stops two propagating radical. So, this is the convention to use 2. Some text actually not uses this 2, but you will remember or you will recall this when we also talk about the rate of initiation. So, we will stop here. We have discussed the rate of initiation, we have discussed the rate of propagation and rate of termination, and we will discuss how to basically find out this concentration of this term in the next lecture.